Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Hello viewers and welcome to the program Agriculture on the Move. I am Phillip Sydney. In today's program we are going to be discussing what is well known to the households. It's called backyard gardening, sometimes called hobby gardening. There's a new one now, peri-urban gardening, but it all deals with agricultural activities within your domicile. With me to discuss this program, to my immediate right is Mr. Kemuel, Baptiste, who is the Chief Extension Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture, and Mrs. Vernet James, who is the Youth Officer in the Ministry of Agriculture. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the 2013-2014 budget presentation, the Prime Minister made mention of tax relief for those persons involved in the backyard gardening, peri-urban gardening, hobby gardening, etc. But before we get into this, Kemuel, give us a sort of a background into the genesis of the backyard gardening program.
Well, first, in the St. Lucia context, our families have always had some kind of agriculture happening in the yard, whether it was raising of a few pigs or chickens or goats or some herb gardening and so on. And this sort of agriculture has fed into our food systems. It provides the families with food supplies. It provides some supplies for bartering. And in the context of healthy lifestyles, it also ensures that families have access to sufficient healthy foods. And so what we as a ministry did, we saw the potential and we saw the opportunity to intensify that particular activity and to get more persons involved. And one of the ways we rolled out that particular program, a couple of years back, we started with a backyard gardening competition. And I think it would be better suited for Mrs. James to perhaps tell our audience, the happenings back then with that particular competition and what came out of it.
Yes, Mrs. James, over to you.
Okay, with the backyard competition, which was launched in 2009, we had many persons participating, and like he said, the purpose was to really rejuvenate backyard gardening in the sector. And we looked at schools, we looked at homeowners, we looked at organizations who had land space, we looked at the physically challenged personnel, all persons within the communities who had the potential. And it was not restricted to persons who had land. We looked at landless areas where you could have used containers. So in that, we allowed persons to be able to garden within their own space and to be creative with what they had. And we also encourage recycling, because what we see, we have a lot of containers which go to the landfill, but these containers can be used and you can receive, so much production from tires, pots, buckets, so many containers. Even the wood and the bamboo and those things can be used to create, space for cultivation of gardening. So basically that was the whole purpose of it, and for them to, realize the benefits of it for their home, for their families, for the health and wellness of the family. And the schools were another area that we really targeted, because we saw how within our city circuits, how we had no gardening. And it's an important area for us, because we have many students who actually come in day to day into our schools. And so we looked at our city schools and we were able to have container gardening. It still exists today, which is, a plus for our program. And so basically that was it. And we saw persons really would get up towards it. And today when we go out throughout the various communities, we still see the results, the success and continuity of the program, where persons have, recreated their homes, their gardens, their front yards and all of that, to have a productive area where they can supply vegetables, foods and fruits for their home, to basically, cut on that cost, because really and truly to eat well, it's an expensive thing. And so when you're able to produce some amount of what you need within your own home area, it's really plus for the home.
Yeah.
What I like about a little point you made concerning not only the backyard but the front, because I am of the view, instead of planting roses and have lawns, you know, we don't eat,
Correct.
you know, flowers. Turn it into a productive vegetable garden, you know, and I think that's one of the areas I think we need at this juncture, where our import bills are over $360 million annually. I think that's the way we need to go.
But one of the things I want to say is it's also important to have the flowers, because when we have that biodiversity taking place within our home area, you are able to reduce your pest and your disease. Because if you have strictly vegetables, then you create the environment for more pests and disease to develop. But if in between there you have couple roses, you have couple flowers like your marigolds, like your, you know, so they will now be able to fight off, or if we want to say have some repellent characters against some of the pests and the disease. So it's important to integrate your flowers as well as your vegetables. It's important.
Yeah, coming out of this particular competition, what will happen, we recognize that a lot of people are very familiar with the flower cultivation, but there were some challenges with effectively growing vegetables. So what we at the ministry did is that we went ahead and developed a tutorial. And this is a program that is going to be a televised program where we're going to highlight what a backyard garden or a garden in your yard should look like, and what are some of the challenges that are faced. And what Mrs. James and the team have done in the last few months is to actually go to various gardens and done shooting and so on. And maybe I should let her elaborate a little bit, because she's the person leading that.
Yeah,
that
I know she has been on this for quite a while.
So
and
it'll be useful for her to highlight
I think you know, we need to let people know, especially now. Yes, they're hearing about backyard gardening or hobby gardening.
Yes.
But they need also to know how to start, when to start, what to use. We're talking about, for example, organic production of vegetables, especially as it relates to our health. All right, so I think it's coming at an opportune time, and I think you can give us an idea into the tutorials that's about to start.
Okay. What we realize is that as more persons get into the home gardening program and production of vegetables, as extensionists or as agriculturists, we're not able to really reach as many as we need to. And so therefore, having the television bring to you in your very home the instructions required, it better enables you to be able to be more productive in what you're doing. So that was basically the concept of looking at a tutorial program for home gardening.
Since you all began, especially with the competition aspect, did you see more people coming on board? Were you getting more calls at the various extension offices, etc.?
Yeah.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah. One of the things that we recognized since the competition was the enthusiasm. I mean, there was so much energy from the schools, from the homeowners, and very interestingly, they were not part of the competition, but we've also extended it to the health centers. The reason why we have the health centers on board is as demonstration sites. So a person who's challenged with those non-communicable diseases and so on could actually go to one of the health centers and see what's happening there. And so we've seen a lot of energy, we've seen a lot of excitement, persons are actually coming on board and saying, look, I want assistance, to the point that I've had to assign an additional member of staff to assist Mrs. James actually in helping to concentrate the efforts that we are undertaking at the Ministry of Agriculture.
How is, for example, the Ministry of Health in terms of that collaborative effort? I mean, you mentioned the health centers, but is it only the only area?
Okay. Throughout the program, we have worked with Ministry of Health side by side with the chief nutritionists as well as the officers within the various health centers. We've had meetings, demonstrations with them, because we know it's an important group in the population that we really want to target so that they will get into that gardening for themselves. So we are working side by side with them to ensure that they are part of the program in terms of understanding the health component, the nutritional component, and how important it is that what you eat is healthy for your body. It's not just a matter of growing something, but it must be healthy.
We are due for a break. You're watching Agriculture on the Move. When we come back, we're going to be speaking about various containers that can be, or recycled container can be used in the program and the way forward. Well, stay tuned.
Don't be negligent.
Care for the environment.
Keep away pollution.
Care for the environment.
Energy conservation.
Care for the environment.
When you making money,
Care for the environment.
work with everybody, Papa say.
Care for the environment.
Hi, this is Invader from St. Lucia. Practice good fishing habits. Stop the illegal sand mining. Don't dump waste in rivers, gutters, and watershed areas. Remember, your environment affects my environment.
When you planning, I say,
Care for the environment.
watch what you throw away.
Care for the environment.
Be intelligent, Papa beg.
Care for the environment.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. Vernet, one thing I personally noticed with that program, especially hobbyists who got involved into this, there is this closeness in the community as far as camaraderie is concerned,
Yes.
because there's this sharing.
That's correct.
I noticed this. And what I also noticed was the question of people want to show off the biggest cucumber, the biggest cabbage. You know, so apart from the other objective, which is the meaning, there's this sense of togetherness.
Yes,
You know, as far as
that
concerned.
is correct.
Okay. Going on with the recycled containers, tell the public exactly what they can use and the success stories in those, recycles. I already mentioned about using the bed of a pickup truck, for that matter. You know, give us some insights into this.
What we saw through the competition was various things being used. Even somebody used a suitcase, and that was like, wow. You know, old wheelbarrows, anything that is capable of holding soil successfully and that has the capacity for proper drainage. That must be important. So whatever container or form of container you use, it must be able to hold the soil and it must have proper drainage capacity in it. That is the two key things. Once that is fine, you could use anything. As long as it's aesthetically pleasing, it must look good. You don't want to put something that makes your home or your environment begin to look dirty or make it, you know, we want something that looks good. So you have to bear that in mind, that whatever you choose, think of your environment, think of your home, think of how you want to portray what you're doing, you know, and there must be some amount of pride and beauty that you want in whatever you're doing, not just something haphazardly. So in choosing, look at your environment, look at what can hold in the environment, what can successfully hold that soil that you need to maintain that crop life cycle, and then you can choose according to your space and what you like.
Okay.
But we saw many things being used, even like you say, an old pickup, the back of an old pickup, you know, was used, tires, pots. We had a school that used an old lunch table and created it into a raised bed. And that was very good, because sometimes you have old desks, old lunch tables. These things can be used, refrigerators. You know, once it can hold the soil and has that drainage capacity, that's what we're looking for.
I remember using at one of the schools years ago a cooker's bag with a lot of your peat moss or your home squills and stuff to plant yams, and you rest it against a chain link fence and let it run on the chain link fence. And of course you got this huge yam at the end, you know. So apart from, people need to know too, it's not only vegetables that can be grown in your backyard. So
That's right.
Mr. Shabatis, give an idea, because we're talking about livestock, talking about root crops, etc.
Well, one of the things before I jump in there is the environmental responsibility. One of the things that we encourage hobby gardeners to do, particularly in the home setting, is to begin a process of selecting their garbage. Biodegradable material, your food peels, grass from your lawn, anything that is biodegradable. The same way that we use these containers as containers for the growth of the plants, we could use one of these as well to create compost. So you compost the material in one of the containers. When it has disintegrated and so on, you could use that material. So you don't necessarily have to put everything out there for the garbage truck. The things that are biodegradable, plant material, use that as well, and incorporate it into your garden as part of the environmental responsibility. in terms of what can be grown, one of the things I need to caution, and again, the caution comes as the times have changed. Poultry is one of the things that we've traditionally had in our yards. We've had the yard fowl. Everybody knows those yard fowls. But the recommendation has come very strongly from the Division of Livestock that we should be careful when we go into poultry production, because these have a tendency to carry particular diseases. And so it is advisable that perhaps you look at animals like rabbits and so on, and if you decide to go into poultry, that you seek the correct recommendations from the Vet and Livestock Division. The housing has to be correct, because these animals come with fecal matter, and we have to ensure that it is responsibly looked after, is responsibly disposed of or incorporated into the whole process. But generally speaking, I mean, depending on how much space you have in the yard, you might be able to raise a goat, you might be able to keep a sheep under an intensive system, you might be coming down the road, cut the grass and feed them right there. But it is zero grazing. So, I mean, we're talking livestock. We're also talking aquaculture. I mean, I'm hearing all these great ideas. The guy said he's going to use a container, the containers that we have at the wharf, split it down, right down the middle, so you have two halves that about maybe 4 feet deep, seal it off properly, fiberglass, whatever, and then put in water. That is a great idea. So anything that allows you to actually produce food or meats, but for the meat, it is particularly important that we get information from the Vet and Livestock Services in order that we do not cause any contaminations of any sort.
But it's also this combination. I mean, if you have
Yes.
rabbits and you have I mean, you get manure.
That's it. That's
Okay.
it. So the whole idea is to have a nice integrated operation
system,
within
yes.
a system within your yard. So you have the animals and the fecal matter from the animal, you compost it and you put it back into your garden. And right, like you rightly said, it's not just about vegetables. We're talking herbs as well. We're talking yams, plantain, bananas. All these could be effectively
trees.
grown. Fruit trees
Yes.
could be. I mean, what you're looking for is an ability to go into that garden and get as much as possible. The citruses will provide you, the fruits could provide you, your juice, raw material, the herbs and so on, you know, for your seasonings and so. So it's about integrating as much as you can within the confines of the
in other
space.
words, it cuts down on your spending ability at the supermarket.
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
And you get it fresh,
That's it.
as
Fresh.
opposed to getting it imported.
I mean, there's joy in having friends over and showing off and going to your garden, get a few lettuce leaves and get some onions. Just show, you know, that's part of the joy
And
of
be,
having it.
I mean, experiment.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
I think that's the way to go. But the way forward now, because I am seeing if we are able to get, say, 10,000 hobbies to get into this program, you know how much commodity we have for consumption.
Yes, yes.
And you can imagine the dent it will create in terms of the impact and cutting down in your $360 million
Yes.
on an annual basis.
Yeah.
Definitely.
There's some people who are a little worried about that. Say, Kemuel, why are we encouraging backyard gardening? What's going to happen to the commercial farmers? Well, the truth of the matter is, I don't hear anybody complaining about the family who makes bakes, who makes homemade bread,
That's right.
and that sort of stuff.
Correct.
So, I mean, you make your bread at home, but the bakeries are still running.
That's
the
right.
bakeries have their clients.
Yes.
The homeowner who feels that they want to make their own bread again to show off to their friends.
yeah.
Hey, look, my bread, I am
Yeah,
making whole
yeah.
meat. That's the whole concept
Yeah.
here. So I don't think there's any...
The restaurants are still going to run.
The restaurants are still going to run. The supermarkets are still going to offer a service and products as well. So I'm not too perturbed by the idea that we have an influx of suppliers at the backyard gardening level. What I encourage persons to do is just produce healthy foods and enjoy doing it.
But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, we still have a steep import bill, no matter how you turn.
Exactly.
You
There you
understand?
have it.
The point
There
is
you
to
have it.
bring it down at
There you have
whatever levels.
There you have it.
We have to eat.
That's
and we
it.
must eat.
That's
So
it.
no matter at whatever levels that is produced, at the farmer level, at the hobbyist level, we must eat.
We must eat.
Yes
There's
or no?
something I want to say. In all of this, we also have to remember the family component in this. We have the parents and you have young ones growing up in a home. And with that garden in the home or in the backyard or in the home environment, you're now able to expose another generation to agricultural
Beautiful.
practices.
Well said.
And so we're now cultivating, that idea, that practice with those young ones coming up, that they will not say, well, I don't know how to do it. Because once your parents are involved, somehow you will find that your kids will now come in to do something in the garden and they're seeing the benefits of it. So it will imprint something in their mind as they grow up of the importance of this agriculture to them. When they go to the school, sometimes we find that they want to take something home for their parents when they're actually active in it. Whether they want, some students tell me, Miss, I have I have pumpkin seeds, I have this, can I bring it to plant? Because they're all excited. And this is
And
one
why,
of the things.
why are you getting excited? We are due for a break. We are due for a break. Hold on, we'll be right back.
St. Lucia, our home. St. Lucia represents different things to each of us. What do you like about St. Lucia?
Strong communities,
natural resources,
thriving industries,
democracy,
national pride,
our unique culture,
creativity.
While we may all have different views, we can work together to build a stronger nation. Let us each play our part.
Welcome back to the program, Agriculture on the Move. We've just, well, came from an exciting section of the program. We're moving to a more exciting section, and that has to do with having more hobbyists involved in the production of the produce in the environment, the home environment. And that takes us to the tax assistance level, which was, that pronouncement was made by the Prime Minister in the 2013-2014 budget discussion. There is this program now. We have to let people know about it.
Yes.
Give us a rundown of that program, Kemuel.
So during the 2013 budget speech, the Prime Minister made a indicated to the general public that it's going to be a tax deductible of up to $5,000 for persons who are involved in hobby gardening, basically. And then we at the ministry had the responsibility to define what that really entails and so on. And so we started a consultative process of deciding what the criteria would be, basically. So we had different persons within ministry and outside of the ministry who were consulted, because we didn't want to put something out there and everybody's saying, like, you know, opening their eyes or going crazy about it. And so over the last few months, we put some criteria. And some of the criteria that we looked at, we're looking at persons who are actually in a garden, in gardening mood. They actually have a garden on the properties. We're looking at a number of things. We have a couple categories: persons who are doing just herbs and vegetables, persons who are doing tree crops, and we're looking at a minimum of 5 fruit trees. We're also looking at persons who may have a small aquaculture pond that measures something like 3 meters by 3 meters minimum. We're also looking at persons who are involved in livestock production. So we're looking at persons with poultry who may have up to 5 chicken, or in the case of sheep and goat, maybe 2 heads of any of those. The way we went about it, because this program is designed to also give value for money. So what we decided upon is that we're going to have 2 categories: an up to $2,500 tax deductible and up to $5,000 tax deductible. So a person having just a vegetable or herb garden gets a tax deductible of up to $2,500. This garden should be a minimum of about 3 meters by 3 meters, or what represents that, because we may not be able to measure it. A person might have that gardening in pots on their veranda and so on. A determination has to be made. Or a person could get a $2,500 tax deductible if they have up to 5 fruit trees in their yard and so on. In the case of livestock, again,
3 meters or 300 meters?
Just 3 meters, 3 by 3. So you're talking about what, 9 square meters or so. In the case of livestock, we're looking at what, 2 heads of sheep and goat, or a combination of the 2. Now, if a person has both crop and livestock, then that person qualifies for a $5,000 tax deductible. Right? Again, the process started a little late, and in the consultative process was a little dragged out, and so we were a little late in rolling it out. But that is not all lost. There's still some persons who are still registering right now. What is required for that particular process is that the hobby gardener needs to register their intention with one of the agricultural extension offices which are around the island. And from there, an officer will actually come to visit the garden, make an assessment, and then the report is submitted to the office of the permanent secretary, and a letter is issued to be taken to Inland Revenue Department, where the person actually receives the benefit or the tax deductible.
Okay, so the officer, the extension officer will guide the process in his locale.
The thing is, we have set criteria, and we have a form, a sheet that that clearly spells out what the criteria is. The reason why we send a person out there is just for verification. We don't want person just saying, well, you know, I have a garden, or I had a garden here and then I concreted it or whatever. We want to be able to see something physical as we go out.
The other thing is, if, for example, somebody is renting,
yes,
okay, and has about 2 homes, the owner of the property, can he claim both areas?
No, one household, one garden.
Okay.
So if Mr. Sydney here has 2 homes, he can only claim for 1.
Okay.
If you're renting, whoever has a garden in that particular rented yard is entitled, not necessarily the owner of the property, but the person who is actually taking care of the garden.
So what it is you want to actually send out there to those persons now? Because, I mean, yes, the process has begun late, but what do you want to send out to those persons out there?
We have just a few more days remaining before the deadline for registration, and I'm treading cautiously because we don't want a huge influx of persons coming in. But if a person really wants that benefit, we could come to the Ministry of Agriculture or one of the extension offices. The forms are available, fill it out really quickly, and we'll do as much as we can to try and facilitate that process before the deadline date for the submission of tax returns.
Great. Okay. We're getting close to the end of the program. There's another aspect of this I think you'll need to take further, but it has to do with, of course, the nutritionists in the Ministry of Health. So apart from the production end, we need to talk about the preparation end for the table. How, Vernet, have you looked at this?
Even when we had our competition program going on, we also looked at our schools, we looked at our chefs, and through our various programs, we had dishes being prepared even in a competition setting as well. So we've done extensive work in terms of the preparation of the foods that come out of the garden, as well as the nutritional benefit of it. And it is something that we continue to do, and we try to work best with the schools and with the chefs on island. And it has been a very successful program. Okay. Yes.
Final word, sir?
Well, let me just say to our viewing audience that we're really excited about the backyard gardening, and we would like to thank the Prime Minister as well for making that pronouncement. It was a challenge for us, but I think it provides impetus for persons to get involved, not just for the tax break, but I think more importantly to ensure that your household has access to safe, nutritious food. And as far as possible, I would like to encourage our audience to go organic as far as possible within the confines of the yard, or a nice integrated garden like Mrs. James said, where you look at repellent crops and as part of the integrated system within your yard.
Composting is a very important component of a garden. Like he spoke about the recycling of materials and composting, we must ensure that we put aside time for the garden for composting or resting, because then we continue to deplete the soil within the container, within the garden area, and then we now need to add, you know, fertilizers. But if we use the composting process, then we're able to replenish the soil. That's very important.
Great. Well, people, I want to thank you all for being on the program. Mrs. James, thank you for a good job that's been done, and I hope you continue to work with with the youth. That's your job. And Kemuel, I know you're doing a good job, and I hope you continue to work with your extension officers, ensuring that the people get the advice they require to take them to the next level and to bring down that food import bill. So viewers, I want to thank you for viewing. We have come to the end of the program. Thank you very much for watching this exciting program. And please, before the date for your return is up, try and get in touch with your extension officer and do that very, very, very quickly. And continue to grow what we eat. Eat best, St. Lucia's. Eat fresh, sorry, St. Lucia's best. Coming from me, Phillip Sydney, I'm saying goodbye and see you again.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole mouvement.
Agriculture on the move.
Agricole en mouvement.